All right, Diane, we are live. Thank you so much for taking out some time.
Thank you for having me on the show.
I appreciate it. Let me jump right in. I got some fun questions, hopefully.
Good.
And with your career starting with The Last American Virgin and Amityville II, you were thrown right into like this leading lady roles. Can you what was that like for you?
Thank you for asking. It only took me like 9 years before to get thrown into that immediate leading role part. It takes they say 10 years of hard work and then boom, overnight success. It was amazing because everybody's career is different. You don't know the script of your life. You don't know what's going to happen. So for me, what was amazing was I had been working and doing commercials and theater and soap opera and film and voiceovers, film like extra work, I hadn't been I was never I never got those roles where I was like leading up to a big role. But I did play a best friend in a soap opera so I got my feet wet, about, the self-discipline takes and what you need to do. So when it happened, I was prepared in a lot of ways. Professional, technique wise, I knew how to work with myself. But it was huge. And the thing that I think was amazing to me, aside from everything, was when I got Last American Virgin, I thought that was just a fluke. I thought it was an accident and that I was now going to have small parts again. And after that, I got lead after lead after lead. And it was shocking. But it also was interesting because I had curly hair and this was something that kept me from getting work in the business in the 70s. And all of a sudden people were telling me, no, go for that audition with your curly hair. And so that was very, it was a shock, it was interesting.
That's awesome. That's really cool. After Amity 2, your next horror film was Terrorvision, right? I'm a big fan of that film. I don't know who isn't.
I love Terrorvision.
Yeah. Any fun stories from the set? What was it like working with that cool creature?
Oh, okay. First of all, one of the things I think is great, I love horror films. And I love the fact that now horror films have so many different, it's very boutique. Like you can say you want to watch horror films that are like really realistic or very gory or, parody. And the thing that I really liked, I did Amityville II, which was more the serious classic horror, but this was great because it was the parody. And it was a parody of the 80s, but we made it in the 80s, so nobody got it. People would watch this film and go, oh, that's just a really bad movie, whatever. But at the same time, bad being, I don't know if you understand good bad.
Of course.
What's a good bad movie is that everybody's in on the joke. And every one of us who was in the film knew that it was hilarious. We thought it was hilarious, and that's why we all did it. Mary Warnoff wouldn't have done that film if she didn't think it was so funny. And Garrett Graham. So that was super fun, and it was great that we all got it. And then when it came out, we were so surprised that nobody else got it. People were like, oh, and we're like, no, you don't get it. This is absolutely hilarious. So I'm really happy that the film has come out and people are loving it now, because finally we're getting that audience who understands the humor. But I love to work with a real monster. I got to work with an actual giant, gooey, hungry beast. It was real, and the guys were making it real. And again, one of the things I really loved about this movie, because it was a parody, is that the monster was like a really big, goofy dog. Yeah. So it ate everything, and it had no malice, So it was the relationship with the monster, I think, is really unique in films, because obviously most things that are scary, you're running from, it's a horror thing and you're running and you're freaking out. But what was great about my character with that was I was able to I wanted to make a deal with the monster. I was talking to it, look, we're going to become famous. And, so that was, I think, really unusual and for its time and super fun to make.
So you also were in an episode of Freddy's Nightmare. that was a favorite show of mine when I was growing up. What was it like working on that show for your episode?
It was great, except when I did it, never got to meet Freddie because all the interstitial things were, they would shoot his stuff separate from when I was working.
Yeah.
And that episode, it was called The Bride Wears Red.
Yeah.
I think Bride Wears Red. And it was, I was the heaviest part of the storyline. So my character went through all these different changes. And in fact, I think that the last scene in that episode was the scariest thing I've ever shot, because it was like with the I think it was a chainsaw or something. I don't know. To me, that was really scary. Even, I mean, you look at Amityville II and you'd say that's really scary, but my character was so innocent. It was just a different head. So, but yeah, I like horror, I like playing, those characters.
That's cool. That's really cool. And now switching gears from horror a little bit, A Better Off Dead, right? This film was not a success when it first came out, but can you kind of speak to the film's cult following today? I mean,
I am going to tell you, first of all, that it is my favorite film I did working on. I mean, it was incredible. And I love it so much personally that I actually am writing a book about it right now. And this is going to be I have a couple of books out on Amazon right now. This will be my third one. I'm hoping to get it out before Christmas. And the thing about this book is that I've been able to not only do the film, but stay in touch with everyone from the film. And I have such a deep love for the film that when I went to conventions, I would bring my actual coat that I wore in the film, and I would have an option for fans to wear it for photos. So I'm including all the people who had been to my conventions wearing the coat. So if you have a picture of yourself with me from Better Off Dead, where I was wearing the coat, or you're wearing the coat, send it to bodcoat@gmail.com and I will put you in my book. So I've got like a bunch of people already who did that. But if you are seeing this and you haven't, you've had a photo with me, I'll put you in my book. So it's very exciting.
That is really cool.
It's a tribute, and it's a loving tribute. So I think it's going to be great for anyone who loves the film. And if you haven't seen it, I think it still holds up. What do you think?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. It's one of my favorites. I think I watch that at least a couple times a year. So did you?
A tradition, I love that. Like at Christmas, It's a great film to watch at Christmas and also Valentine's Day, I think.
Yeah. I agree 100%. And you played last time we spoke, we didn't bring up Bill and Ted. I don't know how we didn't, but you played Princess Joanna in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I guess tell us about that. Was that a fun shoot for you? Any fun stories that you could tell us?
Yes, I do. I have some fun. Well, what's funny is, first of all, Bill and Ted's, obviously, that was such a magical experience. And I actually, you're correct in that I was playing Princess Joanna according to the credits, but was Princess Elizabeth. And in my script, it said Princess Elizabeth, and I knew that. But by the time the film came out and it said, somebody got the credits wrong, because the guys never say our names in the film. They never say Princess Elizabeth or Joanna. So the person who did the credits didn't know who we were. We were just the babes, Yeah. And so because of that, when they did the second one, which first of all, obviously we had no idea they were going to do a second one, but when they wound up doing it, we actually auditioned for our own parts, which is whatever, probably be another book. But anyway, it's fascinating to me that we became Princess Elizabeth, and then now with Bill and Ted also coming out now, which by the way, I am a huge fan of the idea. I think it's excellent, totally excellent that they did a third film with with girls. Bill and Ted are girls now, which is so timely and so perfect. And it's a great message for young women. So I think that's awesome for young women. But the other thing was that now the Princess Elizabeths are the Princess Elizabeths, with Keanu, like that's the match. So I went online and changed my IMDb to Princess Elizabeth. And I don't know if Kim has done that yet, but it got confusing anyway, as you can tell. So I'm just,
cool. I didn't know that.
Okay. Let's just clarify it right here and now.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And, so being an icon from the 80s, what would you say is the film that you get recognized most for?
Well, I'm going to tell you that Bill and Ted's is the most commercial success. And it's interesting because although I love the film, obviously I wish that I was in all three of them.
Sure.
But I do think that Better Off Dead probably, it's interesting. It's half and half. I get my Better Off Dead, like when I've asked people on my Facebook page which they remember me the most from, half of them say Better Off Dead and half of them say Last American Virgin. And
Really?
when I think of that, I feel like that's because like one is, it appeals to you emotionally. So for those who bonded with me as Monique, I will always be Monique, and they will talk like this. I will always be the French exchange student. And then for those who like the drama, like really Last American Virgin, even though it was a comedy, that it's very dramatic and it's very more my real, like it's myself is, the deeper part. And so I think that it really just is, it's a 50-50.
Really?
So
That's cool.
I leave that up to the audience, how you remember me is probably the film that you saw first. But if you saw me in Last American Virgin, you probably hate me. Go watch Better Off Dead or Bill and Ted's.
That's great. I love it. So last time we spoke, you were actually writing your first book. Now I saw that you have a second book out, The Excellent Curls of the Last American French Exchange Babe of the 80s.
Oh, nice. You got that.
So I guess tell us a little bit about that one, because I haven't heard about it. So.
Oh my goodness, great. Thank you for asking. First of all, the title obviously is very long. So I always say, look up Diane Franklin book because that's easier to remember. When I wrote it, my first book, it was really about how does someone who lived in the suburbs, lower middle class, become a star? How does that even happen? And there's a part of me that is, I teach acting to kids, and I really feel like that book, the first one was about how it'll bring back memories, but it also is inspiring for next generation. And I wrote chapters on each of the movies I did, but I also did like rated R PG, so that like if a parent bought it, then the kids could go like, ooh, what's in the rated R? Don't read that. So it's more just subject matter, but it's funny. By the way, R, in case you don't know, is mature. M, right? Is that what it translates today?
Yep.
I think so. But in my books, the reason, so I didn't have an intention of writing another book necessarily, but suddenly after I wrote it, all of a sudden, and I was going through some old photos and things from the films that I had worked on, and I realized I was the first actress to bring curly hair into the 80s. So how I figured this out was when I was going through it, I knew it. I mean, I wrote about it in press kits. I knew it, but I never addressed it. And then suddenly it occurred to me that this was actually a very important time in the history of ethnicity, because actually we had like that straight, long blonde hair in the 70s. And then it wasn't until Last American Virgin when that film came out that suddenly I got all this work. And I was telling you about that before, where they were like, wear that curly hair. And that was shocking to me. And so I wrote this book, The Excellent Curls, because it just shows that how film influences culture too. Because after that, everyone started getting perms. It became like a cultural thing in America. It's suddenly we identified the 80s with curly hair. It's part of the curly look. Aside from Cyndi Lauper with the colored hair and the Terrorvision look, it was the curly hair. It was flash dance, dirty dancing. But it started with Last American Virgin. And I know that because I was looking for my curly haired role models and there were none. Amy Irving was the only one who brought it out in Carrie, but she wasn't the lead. It didn't hit until Last American Virgin. And after that film played, all of a sudden, all these guys found dark curly hair sexy or pretty. And they were looking for the dark curly hair to date. And I can't even tell you, I've heard this story so many times from people that that's what inspired me to push, move forward on the book.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I get into detail about it. Also, the second book has a lot more photos, never before seen photos. So I wanted that book to have a longer lasting effect. So like a lot of times books come out, they're very timely. This book you can get out at any time and you'll see. And if you have curly hair, you got to get the book because it'll make you feel really good. And you'll start to understand you'll start to feel, I think sometimes curly hair before it came out in Last American Virgin, it was seen as bushy or frizzy or just unkempt, or it would be like, oh, well, the best friend with the curly hair that's, messy. But then afterwards, after Virgin, it became desirable. And, look at Flashdance. That was when it became popular. I would say mainstream when Flashdance came in. And by the way, I actually auditioned and got a call back for Flashdance. So
Really?
they were looking at it.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's really cool. And how is it for you kind of returning to the world of Amity horror? In 2018, you played Luis DeFeo in the Amityville Murders.
All right. So this is really exciting because I have had this blessed life, this amazing acting career, which is, I started really young. I acted in these films. I never did publicity. So if you know me, it's because you've seen my work. So it wasn't until this Amityville Murders, which is now on Netflix, it's out, that I actually did publicity, for a film fully, which is sort of based on my name. Before, it was just this actress in this film and people didn't really know who I was. But if you knew me, that you've seen my work. So why I thought it was really cool was when this happened, when I got the film, the director of Amityville Murders had seen me in Amityville II, The Possession, when he was little, when he was a kid. And so he never forgot the film. He was 12 years old and he was like, oh my gosh, this is like the scariest movie ever. So when he grew up, and he's now in his, I think, 40s, early 40s or something, when he grew up and he became a writer director, he wrote this film and he wanted me to play the part of the mom. And I thought that was such a progressive and smart idea to have someone who played the child in the Amityville 2 to now play the mom. I just thought that was such a cool idea. And when he offered me the role, I burst into tears. I mean, literally on the phone I still had to audition because I had to prove to the, producers that I could still act, that I could still do it. And personally, I think it's probably all in all my best performance in anything I've ever done. Yeah. But the film is I think it's more of a drama than a horror film. Yeah. Because it's based on the reality of the true story. Amityville 2 is a classic horror film, but Amityville, the Murders, is based on the actual murder. And I don't know if people know this, that happened in 1974, where a 23-year-old boy murdered his family. And this is a true story. So it has a different tone, but if you go into it with a horror expectation, I think you'll maybe disappointed. But if you go in with a drama, sort of thing, like what happened during this, person's life, I think you're going to love it. I've had people go, I love the film. They just adore it. And, it's worth it, I think, to see what I'm doing in it. So
that's cool. That's really awesome.
I play a totally different character. So you'll see me in it and you maybe not recognize me, but whatever. Whatever.
That's great. All right, listen, that's all the questions I have. And I appreciate you taking out some time to chat with me again.
Always, anytime. And thank you for looking for me. I have to tell you, I don't know if you know social media. I'm on social media, actress Diane Franklin, and Twitter. On Twitter, I'm Diane Franklin 80, and Facebook. My Facebook page is full, but you can go to my group page, Diane Franklin official fan page. But I have a lot of things going on, and I'm posting my upcoming films. I have actually 3 films coming out, and I also this Bill and Ted's thing is so exciting. I hope people go and see the film. I had a heartfelt experience about it, so I love the film, even though they were not triumphant in certain ways, but I have to say that it's a great thing, and I'm so glad people are remembering Bill and Ted's, and it's coming out with a great message. So
That's
stay
awesome.
excellent and party on, dudes.
Thanks, Diane.